What is one thing your parents did to you that you'll never do to your children? Force them to watch conspiracy theory videos. Whisper to them that they're smarter or better than their sibling to motivate them. Beat them. Explain nothing about finances, relationships, or sex to them. Squeeze their hand when I'm mad. Move random people into the house without explaining anything. Tell a 5-year-old to tell my ex-boyfriend that they miss him so he can come back. Tell them they won't be anything in life. Treat cleaning like a punishment. Ignore them when they speak. Tell them they can't play a sport because it's a gay sport. My mum was great growing up except for making us sit at the table until we ate all our food. If we did not, we were punished. I understand her parents went through the depression, so I don't hold this against her, but as a parent, my dinner rules were completely different. I refuse to argue about food, period. Meal time should be calm, family time. If that means I throw on a grilled cheese or something for a child who didn't like what I was cooking, fine. Took maybe 5 minutes extra. Our lives were so crazy when the kids were young that I made sure dinner time was peaceful. Expose them to toxic family members. My mum's family was full of them, and she had them over literally every weekend and every holiday, so I always had to deal with my aunt bullying me and constantly putting me down. Them over Sundays because, according to her, if she didn't have them over, my grandparents wouldn't get to see their grandkids because my aunts never visited their parents or took their kids to visit. Not spend time with me. My mum was a little better, but my dad was strictly work late. Come home then eat and drink with friends. Weekend we're with grandparents, and then we do something Sunday afternoon, usually going to their friend's house. If the friends had kids, cool. Otherwise I was on my own. Pressure them into a career. My whole life I was told I should be a lawyer because I talk a lot and suck at math. Now I'm an engineer. Shit on their appearance, hobbies, friends and romantic partners. It's wild how much I normalize the above, having absolutely zero to do or to care with my schooling and grades. I was a fantastic student nonetheless. But even at a young age, my parents' lack of involvement in my curriculum was astonishing. Zero pressure, zero curiosity, 100 ignorance to both email and parent portals. I was completely in charge of everything from studying and getting tutors to deciding when I needed to be absent from kindergarten. Half the time, I don't even think they knew the names of my teachers or what classes I was taking all the way up to college. Debate to teach them debate skills. I love my father, still do. But he's passed. That he would purposefully pick things he knew I felt deeply about and debate the other side just to try and teach me to do so. It worked, and I'm often complimented on my ability to keep a cool head when someone's argumentative. But it was not fun in the slightest. On the other side of the coin, would absolutely continue my dad's old tendency to stay up late and talk about the universe and scientific theories with me. Held me down for doctor's appointments to get them over with quickly. Now I have medical PTSD, and every time I go to the doctor, and I am touched common now due to my health issues, I get flashbacks or end up having nightmares for a while afterwards. I never want my children to feel that way. And I think parents should let their kid take their time, calm down, and relax more before forcing procedures on them. Not in an emergency, obviously. Just for like routine medical procedures. 1. Pressure them to make A's in school. 2. Make fun of their hobby, interest, try, and coerce them out of it by implying how ridiculous it is unless it's illegal or vaping. 3. Impose a strict bedtime edit to older kids such as high schoolers. Compare them to one another. 4. Pick obvious favorites. 5. Because I said so. 6. Listen to them when they have a concern. 6. Tell them they don't know anxiety or stress because of their age, especially in high school or college. My mum would often compare me to my cousins. I struggled in math, and according my mum that was the end of the world. She would compare me to them with my struggle in the subject, including comparing me between them by my appearance, etc., often saying, "Why can't you be like your cousins?" They don't struggle in math. I'm now 26, and it still upsets me, and promised myself that if I have children I would never compare them to a family member, friend, etc. I was restricted in my eating to the point where my mum would keep biscuits and the like under lock and key. Obviously I was fed 3 meals and allowed a treat after lunch, but unfortunately, this has set me up for a lifetime of binge eating sweet foods. I didn't restrict my son's access, and he's 21 and can take or leave treats. I know there was only good intentions behind my mum doing that, but by making it forbidden, I only wanted more. It's the bane of my life. My dad taught me how much being an adult sucks at like the age of 7. So I had little hope for the future. My home used me as a therapist. There was a lot of fucking a shit a kid doesn't need to hear. I just let my kids do their own thing cause the world could change tomorrow. Might as well let them enjoy every day they can grab. They're fine. Honors kids. Don't give anyone issues. About the only thing I have to get onto them about is fucking up the kitchen. Forced me to kiss relatives. I hated it as a little kid. And I even remember once asking if I could shake hands the way my brother was allowed to. I found it scary to have to kiss these big men with beards and women that reeked of perfume that I barely remembered from one visit to the next. Don't do that to your kid. Besides being a violation of their comfort zone, it teaches that they don't have the right to control who gets to touch and kiss them. I moved out at 16. But then my parents, who were divorced, wouldn't let me move back home. Partner's son was a crackhead, so he was bothered she would ask if her son called move in. And my mum said she was moving, ended up in a hostel, never felt as lonely in my life, horrible 7 months. If any of my 5 children ever move out, ever want to come home, there will always be a place for them here. Never want them to feel like I did. Gaslighting. When I was a kid and my parents didn't agree with the decision I made, it was always, you don't want that, or see if it were me I would ... It took me a really long time to be comfortable making my own decisions and not having to defer to someone else. Additionally, everything was transactional. Anytime I mentioned I liked something, it was instantly, well, if you want access to this thing you better do exactly what we say. I will never forget their Christmas gift until the first morning back to school after break. Tell them on the first day back to school the dog is being put down, and you only 5 minutes to say goodbye to him. Leave them behind when going to grandma's for Christmas. Emotionally neglect them. Yell at them for no apparent reason. I could go on, but suddenly I find myself very depressed and wanting a whiskey. Downplay depression. My parents are those I get sad all the time types and don't like the fact that I medicate for it. Both my sister and I are diagnosed with major depressive disorder, and I also have an anxiety disorder, along with my sister being autoimmune. Both diagnoses stress her a lot and has made her have multiple unalive episodes. If she wasn't medicated now, I'd be so worried if she wasn't on meds like me. I was raised by my single grandfather. He condoned my being abused in gymnastics. My coach emotionally abused me so bad I gained self-offing thoughts. I've since overcome them. Don't worry. But to this day he says being abused was the best thing that ever happened to me because it matured me. No, it didn't. I was 11. It took the joy out of my life to the point I emotionally shut down. I will protect my children. Meals by telling me things like you should be happy you have food on your plate. Little kids in Africa do. They're dying because they're hungry, and they would love to eat what you don't want. Or body shaming me, and I was a totally normal kid, which resulted in 2 years of anorexia, and then 21 years of bulimia. I've almost been 7 years sober now. Leave him in the car by himself for 45 minutes with nothing to do, while I run into the store for just a minute. Pick him up and after I said I would with no explanation. Yell at and hit him in a rage. Tell him he's stupid or APY. Minimize his accomplishments as if I'm competing with him instead of nurturing him. Those are just top of mind as I think about it. I'm sure there's more. I loved my parents, but they used to make fun of me for being a girl. Thus, I would hear, "Oh, you have a girlfriend," If I was chatting to a female on the playground, I became extremely shy around girls and eventually women as a result. I was less concerned with the female I was talking to and more concerned with what other people would think of my interactions with her. I felt like an asshole after it. Have them, my parents, fucked me up so bad that I'm petrified at the idea of having children. My roommate has a baby when they cry when I'm trying to sleep. I feel the primal urge to harm them. I regret even thinking like that almost immediately. But the fact that the urge is there at all is enough to remind me that I am my mother's child, therefore deeming me unworthy of parenthood. Shouting and screaming at them all the time. No shouting is allowed in my house. To think it's normal, and I asked them to leave one time for arguing and shouting and swearing around my son. They argued back with me saying as if it's not the first time he's ever seen people arguing. I was like yeah actually it is. That's why I left his father though. My parents always used to tell me their frustrations and their desire to die. We were a very broke family, so my parents had a lot of stress and anger. Whatever I did, my mum would get mad. Then they'd tell me how they wish I were dead because I'm wasting their money. I would never want my child to feel this way, especially because these things led me to atypical depression. The way I found out my grandma died was on the way to school, when my mum said, "Oh, by the way, your grandma died last night, that's why we're both taking you today." As expected, I was upset about it and begged to not go to school. They still made me go. Looking back, that was absolutely fucked. I can't imagine a worse time and place to tell your child their grandma is dead.